So, I don't want to make this all that long, but just to go into things a little bit, my name's Kunda. I've done a little bit of a YouTube show called Kunda Independent News. This is what I'm planning to do tonight. I need to pick up a new tripod. The old one I had while I was out at a solidarity event in the cold unfortunately broke. I find it's really helpful. I need one for this type of thing. Gonna go pick one up. I kind of undersell what I do just like a little bit. I like to go to these events and record things so people can see what really happens, hear for themselves, listen with their own ears, all that kind of thing. And it's like uploading it, going through the effort to go record, edit, all that kind of thing. It's kind of a free public service. So I'm going to go provide some of that at one of the local governments.
Councilors, this evening we have two items on the public hearing agenda. The purpose of this hearing is for council to hear input from the public prior to making a decision on these proposals. The members of the public who have chosen to come this evening, welcome. Please note that council's procedural policy requires that you not cheer, boo, clap, or otherwise disrupt this hearing. Everybody that wishes will have an opportunity to speak. Tonight, council may approve, reject, or defer its decision on the proposal to a later date. Council approval is required for these proposals to proceed. I will now ask the municipal clerk to outline when the public hearing advertisements were published.
Mr. Warden, the public hearing notice appeared in the January 14th and 21st editions of the Chronicle Herald. The notices described the proposals, gave the date, time, and location of the public hearing, and indicated that staff reports were available to the public.
Thank you. Council, the first item on the public hearing schedule is a proposal to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to enable rail-related development in Milford. I will now ask the chair of Planning Advisory Committee to present his report. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Warden. Planning Advisory Committee has considered the proposal on behalf of Municipal Council. The committee has reviewed staff's reports, completed their evaluation, and will make a recommendation to council during this hearing. Mr. Warden, through you, I would now ask staff to present their final report on the proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. So a bit of background. This is, again, a proposal to redesignate and rezone approximately 18 acres or 7.28 hectares of municipally owned land at 1705 Highway 2 in Milford. The change would be from agricultural reserve AR to industrial commercial IC. There was a public information meeting held back in June 2019. First reading was given back in the summer in July. And the last step in the process is a public hearing tonight. And just on that overhead, you can see the area outlined with the red dots. That's the area that's proposed to be rezoned. There is a larger property, and I'll get to that in the next slide. But you can also see the Shubenacadie River on the right side of that slide, and then the quarry just beyond. And then the white road leading up to Highway 2, which is the Milford Quarry Access Road. And then you can see the rail spur that leads into the quarry, as well as the CN main line that borders the west side of the site. So then on the next slide, this is the current zoning. And again, as you can see, the current zoning is AR, that's a brown color, this large area. And again, the area we're talking about rezoning is that 18 acres of the west side of the property. Other zones in the area include additional AR zone properties as well as rural use. And most of those rural use properties along Highway 2 are residential properties. And then there's also one institutional use property that you can see there in blue, that's a church. And again, the total property is 58 acres in size, so 18 of the 58 is what's proposed to be rezoned. And council approved the acquisition of this property back in 2015. And since that time, the municipality has developed a park along the river, Whitbar Station Park. And a site plan on the next slide which shows some of the development that's happened there. So there was a dock put in as well as some trails and a picnic area, and that, again, just to orient from the left to the right here, so that's the road coming in, and it sort of goes to the crest of the hill and then down through the switchback to the river, and that's where the park area has been developed. The area that's proposed to be rezoned is the area on the left side, the sort of blank area there where you don't see any park facilities proposed, and that's the approximate area of about 18 acres. And I guess I should reiterate on that slide that there is no proposal here to rezone any portion of the park or to sell any portion of the park, but I think there was some information floating around to that effect, but that's not the case. So the development proposal, since 2006, the municipality has been investigating the concept of rail-related development. And there have been a number of iterations that have come from both the municipality and outside the municipality, called either an inland port intermodal logistics center or a rail-side reload center. More recently, our economic and business development department has fielded inquiries regarding the purchase or lease of this land for smaller scale rail-related development. And there were a couple of businesses that came forward that we're aware of. One was proposing to bring propane to the site by rail car and then distributing it by truck from that site. There was another business interested in doing some work related to the offshore industry, storage of mud and chemicals related to the offshore industry and bringing from the port as needed. There's no current development proposal for this site. However, council has directed staff to continue this process to enable future proposals to come forward. And there's no question by not having the industrial zoning on it now does make it tougher for economic development to market the site. I guess they're not actively marketing it right now. Although even with that, they do get 1 or 2 inquiries a year related to rail land. And again, this proposal would only relate to that 18 acres. So going to slide 5, in terms of policy analysis, so when we updated our planning strategy in 2016, this issue was discussed and the background paper prepared, and the result of that was this new policy in the municipal planning strategy. There's some preamble there, but the policy states that in the interest of pursuing a unique economic development opportunity related to rail access, council may consider future amendments to this strategy and land use bylaw. So the proposed redesignation and rezoning that we're talking about here would be in compliance with that policy by enabling future rail-related development. There are a number of issues, I guess, that we looked at in the policy analysis. The first had to do with the loss of agricultural land. First of all, I would point out that the proposal was not reviewed by the municipality's Agricultural Advisory Committee. Council decided not to direct it there. Currently, the area is farmed as part of the Canadian Food Grains Bank project. And when that land is, or if and when that land is developed, obviously there would be the loss of that 7 hectares of Class 3 land from agriculture. There was an agricultural impact study done back in 2010 for a larger proposal. It's not specifically related to this proposal, but I thought it was a good reference to pull out some of the issues. And that study found that there would have been more Class 3 land loss in that larger proposal, over 10 hectares. And that 10.7 hectares would have equated to 0.24% of the agricultural reserve zone lands in East Hants. The report concluded that such a facility could have an impact on nearby farming activity, but the proposal should have a relatively low impact, overall impact on agricultural production within the study area. And then there were some caveats. If development on agricultural land is restricted to the current proposed area, noise, light, and drainage mitigation measures are included in project design, truck traffic is restricted to the proposed access road, and future expansion is restricted to non-agricultural zone land. And obviously, until there is a specific proposal, a number of those details won't be known, but this information can be used as a guide in any lease or sale negotiation, as well as in any future development agreement application. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the proposal would not significantly reduce the continuation of agricultural use beyond this specific site. Other issues that came up, so the first one was compatibility with surrounding land uses. There are a number of as-of-right uses. Once if it's zoned industrial commercial, that would include warehousing, manufacturing, and so on. Any impacts from light as well as noise from truck and train movements would be a concern for nearby residential uses. And I think the current truck and train movements associated with the gypsum corridor are a good indicator of the possible types of impacts we're talking about. Our Economic and Business Development Department indicated that the municipality should consider placing obligations on any future development to provide adequate buffer to those nearby residential uses. And particular attention should be paid to this issue in site design, as the nearest dwellings are less than 100 meters from the subject site. Noxious uses, what we call noxious uses in the land use bylaw, which would include the handling of dangerous goods, and those two earlier proposals that I mentioned, they would also require a further development agreement to be approved by council following a public hearing, so a similar process to this. In such an application, obviously the proximity of those dwellings and farms for that matter would be a key consideration. Another issue related to site access and servicing. So Nova Scotia Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal does not anticipate a negative impact on the provincial road network, and they found that the National Gypsum Quarry Road entrance acceptable. They did indicate that this may require reassessment with future development. Obviously, again, there's not a specific proposal, so they don't know how many truck movements and so on, but generally they found the entrance and the road acceptable. The Milford and District Volunteer Fire Department commented that they foresee no issues with site access. However, they are recommending that an on-site water source be incorporated into any development to ensure an adequate supply of water in an emergency response. And municipal and sewer and water service are not available at this site. As a result, any proposal would require on-site sewer and water service. In terms of the environment, Nova Scotia Environment commented and that there's a nearby wetland and water course on the western boundary of the property parallel to the rail line. The water course has been identified as potential habitat for aquatic species at risk, Atlantic salmon. And given that direct rail access is a key component of any future development here, that would obviously be an important design constraint, given that the water course again runs parallel to the rail line. So in summary, many of the issues raised will not be able to be dealt with until there is a specific development proposal for the site. However, given the clear policy direction provided by that earlier policy that talked about rail access, ED 48, it indicates council intended to consider future amendments to enable rail-related development at this site. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed change is consistent with the spirit and intent of the NPS. In terms of citizen engagement, public information meeting again was held in June. And those comments expressed at that meeting had concerns with the proposal. The meeting notes were posted for PAC and council from the meeting. And a public questionnaire was also mailed to all properties within 500 meters of the subject property. And those questionnaires that we received back raised concerns with noise, light, truck traffic, devaluation of property, loss of farmland, and compliance with the provincial statement of interest for agricultural land. Lack of commercial interest in the site also indicated that the property should have been resold instead of held by the municipality. Concern that industrial development will impact McGuire Station Park. The loss of the Canadian Food Grains Bank project from the property. A petition opposed to the proposed designation and zone change has also been received by the municipality regarding the proposal. There were a total of 175 signatures included in that petition, although staff didn't try to verify addresses or anything like that. Staff had not verified. And the petition indicates that residents of Milford wish to remain a rural residential area without infringement from industrial development. The petition also raises concerns with possible noise, land, air, and water pollution. And the petition also notes that agricultural land should be preserved. And that's my report. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Is there any member of council with any questions for staff?
John, can you hear me okay? If this passes tonight, can it be appealed by a public member?
Through you, Mr. Warden, no, because it's a strategy amendment, the process is different, so we don't put that in the paper and give 14-day appeal. It goes to the minister, so it needs provincial approval because we're changing policy. If it was a straight rezoning, it would be appealable, but because there's an NPS amendment, it's not.
Can the process be appealed?
It would have to be some sort of court challenge that there was something wrong with the process or we erred in law somehow, but there's no process like there is for a rezoning or development agreement.
Okay, because I was led to believe by an individual today that the process, if a public member found the process wasn't followed, that they could actually make
Again, I'm not sure, Mr. Warden, how that would work. It would be a legal process. It wouldn't be the normal, process that's laid out through the utility review board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have a similar question. Was it appealable? And it appears that it's not. And I guess the other question I had, was any type of class action, if it's not approved, that a big community can pursue?
Again,
That's
Mr. Warden.
probably a tough one.
Yeah, that's a legal question. I guess I'm not in a position to answer that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Question for you, John. The province had asked us to work on policy or bylaw for preservation for agricultural land. And what we're doing now is, what we're proving to the public now, we do it just for the municipality. If somebody else come in and want to rezone for, we told you I bought this land, I had intention to turn it into commercial, and like we did. So are you gonna approve for them too, or are you gonna just pass it for us? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Warden. I mean, every situation is unique, I guess, and it depends on what other policies you're looking at. If somebody just wanted land taken out of the agricultural reserve and there were no other policy to refer to, the staff would probably recommend against it. But because you have this other policy that talks about railside development in this area, that's why staff recommended for it. So it's unique in that respect.
No other councillors up to speak, so we'll move on. Does any member of staff have any comment?
Not yet.
I will now open the floor to comments and questions. If you wish to speak, please come to the mic, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Tara O'Grady. I live at 173 number 2. Seems how I'm nervous. My property is actually directly behind the property that you're thinking about rezoning. My question is, we don't have municipal services like water and sewer. So say you do put an industrial, some kind of format, whatever you decide to put there, what's going to happen to our well water? Right now I have plenty of water, but if you put something huge like that in there, water is going to be used. What's going to happen to my fellow neighbors and us when we don't have any water? That's my concern. And like Northern Pulp, everyone is about the environment. I know this has nothing to do with it, but it's going to cause, say they do put propane or gas or something like that. I'm like, the smells and all that, how's that going to affect me? I'm directly behind that property. Like, those are my concerns. The noise, I wake up now at 4:30 in the morning to slamming rail cars and, I have, I'm just concerned about noise and my water, my safety of my water, things like that I'm very concerned about.
Sure. Well, if it was, as I said earlier, if there was a use that we would call noxious, so if there were fumes associated with it or dangerous goods, it wouldn't be able to go ahead until there was a development agreement in place, at which time I guess we would get more information about exactly how the property would be developed. And residents and adjoining property owners would have another opportunity to have a look at that and let council look at that.
It was a water intensive type situation. If the council asked for a hybrid geological study to be done, it would be
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, this is kind of a unique case because the municipality owns the land. Through a DA process, you could probably ask for it if it was just a sale or lease agreement, but you could ask for it there too. As the seller of the land or the leaser of the land, you could ask for things you can't ask for as a regulator.
Hi, my name is Ryan Vandenhoff. My family owns a farm at 307 Nelson Hill in Milford, but we own the land basically directly across where sort of the church is there. So my question was, if you're willing to rezone this from agricultural to industrial commercial, that sets a dangerous precedent, and you've got another about 15 acres behind that. You say here that future expansion is restricted to non-agricultural zones. What's to stop you from rezoning that agricultural that's right there into commercial land? Because it's connected already, and you have set the precedent then.
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, I guess if there was any further proposal, it would have to go through the same process.
Once it's there, sorry. But once it's already done, wouldn't it just be an easier process than now with less feedback from the community because it's already there? So you're looking at taking something that already has a negative stigma on it and making a precedent with it to make it easier for the next time you try to do it.
Well, for you, Mr. Warden, I would say that from kind of a broad planning point of view, that's true. If you have an existing use, expanding a use is easier than establishing a use. That's kind of a general principle. Now, this land is a little bit unique because we do have an open space use on it, and I guess if we started talking about expanding the commercial use, we would look at probably a little more carefully at how those two buffer from each other.
But if it wasn't on the rail, you wouldn't need that special clause that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, I see what, yeah, so we're talking about adjoining private land?
I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. I just mean the 15 acres behind that.
You mean part of the required station park that's there now?
Correct. Part of that, the other, pretty much everything else that's zoned agricultural there. What's to stop you from rezoning that when needed later?
Well, again, council can consider applications or proposals at any time, but again, you have to go through this public process to do it.
Nobody else, we move on.
Hi, my name's Sean. I live at 29 Telly Avenue. My wife actually has part of the dairy farm that Ryan was talking about. So, first of all, I'm looking around the room here, and just quickly, show of hands, how many people don't want this? Councillors, please remember that you do work for us. We are the people for this zoning thing, and we really do not want industrial. Industrial is in Burnside, tons of things there. We do not feel that we need rail access in our area. We like our agriculture, especially because we rely on it every day, and we like how our town is. Thank you.
Excuse me. My name's Roy Nielsen. I'm from Fort Ellis, Colchester County. I'm here representing Country Calvary Baptist Church right across the road from the site. And none of us there are in favor of it, mainly because it would be a deterrent for residential expansion, and even may lose some of the ones that are there. And our hope is to get more people coming to the church rather than staying away because of houses nobody wants to build there, and for noise. A rail thing, it could be 24/7, and well, I haven't talked to anyone in the congregation that would be in favor of it. Just wanted you to consider that.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Roy Nicholas. I live down there in Milford. How many of you people live in Milford? Don't want it in your backyard, do you? And I can tell you all right now, they're putting it through whether you want it or not. We've been fighting this since 2006. We've been having meetings. They're not listening to a thing. They want it, and they're gonna put it through. So you might as well just forget about it.
Anybody else wish to speak?
I'm Jessica Boland. I live at 40 Hemlock Drive, but again, part of the dairy farm. We were looking at building a boarding facility for horses. So, which obviously we wouldn't be able to do if this were to go through. So on one hand, you are looking at economic development in terms of the industrial and the rail, but you're also cutting off the local economic development that people want here. And it's not just us, there are other uses for that agricultural land. So you guys could sell it and keep everything status quo. People like us who don't own that specific land could continue with different business models that fit with the culture in our community. Or you can drive us out of the community and we'll go somewhere else. And we won't be the only people because we can't have the businesses and the lives that we want to have here. I'm also just wondering, in terms of citizen engagement, the staff report brings up various complaints and various concerns that no answer to that. It's kind of just a broad, people were concerned about these random problems and it was just dismissed. So I'm wondering if there's anything concrete or anything specific to address these concerns.
Sure. I think some of them were addressed in the staff report. We talked about some of those issues, but I also indicated that until there's a proposal, like issues like setbacks or hours of operation, we're not going to know those things until we actually have a proposal. So it is hard to, I guess, evaluate an impact if you don't know what it is yet. If a DA is required, I mean, there are some uses that could go there as of right, but they would, again, be things that essentially any sort of warehousing or industrial activity that's contained in a building that doesn't emit fumes, dust, or that kind of thing. So it would have to be fairly innocuous without a DA.
So I'm just wondering, in terms of the concerns, we're looking at noise, light pollution, truck traffic, devaluation of property, loss of farmland in compliance with the MGA, lack of commercial interest in the site, the indication the property should be resold, concern for industrial development and the impact on Wigwire Station, and the loss of the food bank property. So a lot of those concerns are not addressed in the staff report, and a lot of them have not been addressed here, other than we can't really say anything because there's nothing firm yet. So again, I mean, if the concern is now in terms of citizens and people that you're not listening to us now, why should we trust that we can trust you in the future on similar developments? So, I don't know, but I would implore you to not go through with this rezoning.
One more and then we'll clear it. Civil, there might be people here, we don't know that want to speak on the other side, and if everybody's talking and talking, it won't be a force to come to the mic. Keep it civil for everybody.
Joseph Luxor, 1837 Highway 2. I own the dairy farm right next to this property. Right now we have train traffic and noise, and we have trains that block my driveway. It holds up my milk truck, it holds up feed trucks, it puts it at a standstill a lot of days. More rail traffic, is that gonna block me up more? It's very disadvantageous to us because it causes a lot of grief. And that's not even involving if there's propane or gas or whatever they want to unload, what environmental standards are gonna be put in place to keep this all intact.
What would be the process If there was a further application, would the environment have to approve it, or would there have to be an environmental assessment?
Probably not for development of a site like this. I think in terms of the access, I'm not sure how that process works with CN. We did get comments from CN that they're, more than happy to work with somebody to establish rail access here. I think there's something in those regulations about level crossings and so on. I'm just not as familiar with those.
We also rent all the agricultural land the National Gypsum has, and more rail traffic will impede us again if we use their road to go in too. It's getting worse and worse every year, and with more development, what do you do?
Good day, Mr. Chairman. John Landry, Shabadaki. I'm a local farmer. I think we could agree that the land presently is it's ready, yes. Mr. Chairman, can we agree that the farmland now is being actively farmed? I had a question on your Agricultural Advisory Committee. What would be the mandate of that committee in relation to municipality developments?
By policy, that committee was set up by council to advise council on matters related to agricultural land.
So, as we understand, this is agricultural land being actively farmed. Why did council decline to refer this proposal to this Agricultural Advisory Committee?
It was brought up and voted not to do it, so I can't speak as a council as a whole, they probably wasn't required.
So, I think it's fair to say that maybe that's a flaw in the application process, and I really think that given those requirements, a visit to the Agricultural Advisory Committee on this topic pretty much is mandatory, and I see that as maybe a violation of your policy, and I would hope that the council would reconsider and ask for input from the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Any further comments from the others?
Liz Schwartz, Woodruff Road, Milford. First of all, I must apologize to the area residents who signed the petition against this amendment in rezoning of 1705. Apparently, staff and council were doubtful because there were no addresses attached to the signatures. We'll know better the next time. But we can assure you that all the residents in the affected area of Milford, plus 20 members from Country Calvary Baptist Church, made up approximately 80% of the signatures. The rest of the signatures were Woodward Station Park users, 3 concerned farmers from Shubenacadie area, some people from Hard's Lands, and all of us who prepared the petition can attest to this. So a considerable effort was put into this petition, and it would be a great disappointment to have it overlooked. A number of questions arose from people in the affected area all up and down the road from 1705. Staff report stated that the purchase price of the property was $315,000. What other costs were there, such as legal costs and the extensive cleanup?
I believe,
I don't have it in front of me, but it was, around 50 on top of the purchase.
So there's 52,000 on top of the purchase price to clean up the property.
How many other property has the municipality purchased in East Hants for business opportunities, and how many for leapfrog developments that cause widespread turmoil in the neighborhood?
That's a question I don't think we can answer. We bought industrial parks, but properties. I don't think we can give you a definitive answer. We bought a couple of the business parks, we bought some tourism properties over on the shore.
How much objection was it to it?
I don't know, I wasn't sitting in the seat for all of them, so can't tell you.
The inland port concept was mentioned. We'd always like to know how much money that was spent on that. The contented, unsuspecting citizens suddenly woke up in early 2009 to realize that there were little dots on concept map. Council had kept it under wraps for 3 years. Why?
Can't tell you, can't answer that. No good staff. Liz, can you talk to the mic? Apparently they can't hear you next door, so we.
Okay. There's mention of something called policy ED 48. What is that, and when and why was it created?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warren, that was when we did the plan review in 2016. You know, this issue was discussed, and that policy resulted. At the time, I can't remember all the back and forth of discussion, but it was basically council's decision to put a policy in place, not enable something right away, but to enable them to consider future developments through amendments to the strategy.
So that policy was put in place so that this could happen.
Well, so that, through you, Mr. Warren, so that rezoning development, it could have been another policy. We could have created a policy that didn't change the zone, that enabled development agreements, but it definitely put the world on notice, I guess, that council would consider other, you know, amendments for the site.
Interesting. I was also wondering why this wasn't forwarded to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. Another statement was that noxious uses at the site, including dangerous goods, would need further development agreement due to nearby dwellings. Didn't mention Shubenacadie River. Does this mean that further development agreement might be considered for noxious use?
Well, to you, Mr. Warden, I mean, you saw in the report that there were a couple of uses that we would consider in that category that would require development agreement. That did inquire to the municipality. So if one of those types of uses comes forward and the municipality decides to lease or sell for it, then we would need another DA.
So it could be all kinds of poison over there. You just have to approve it.
I think that's in the future, we can't tell.
Pardon?
That would be in the future, and we don't know.
There's a lot of don't knows here. Another section pertaining to proximity to schools, recreation, and community facilities was considered not applicable to the proposal. What about the church and the park? How can you define proximity?
Those policies, Mr. Warden, really relate to property, to strategy amendments in growth centers, and this isn't. So that's why that property was not applicable in the staff report. Or growth management area, sorry.
was a reference to stormwater management. What exactly is appropriate stormwater management in a sensitive area near watershed and wildlife and farm properties? Can you define that?
Through you, Mr. Warden, so I mentioned in the report that environment in their comments, and they actually gave us quite long comments about when a property is developed, there are all kinds of controls that have to be put in place in terms of sedimentation, erosion control. They didn't get into all that in the report. But the more important point I think they made was the water course on the site having potential for an endangered species. So there would actually have to be quite a review if anything's developed on that site, and if anyone's interested in developing that site, I would bring that up right away and direct them to environment to discuss that issue and how they might mitigate that.
So that's not just noxious use, that's any use they would be subject to environmental
Yes,
review?
if they're in any way going to interact with that water course, it would be a review.
Well, it also says that the developers would be responsible for any environmental concerns or spills. So do we conclude that council and planners are off the hook if the neighbors of the Shubenacadie River get poisoned?
Well, through you, Mr. Ward, I mean, that's always the case. Whoever is the developer and the operator would be responsible for, the operation of the facility, including compliance with dangerous goods regulations and so on.
So we could have dangerous goods there, we could have poisoned into the river, and nobody here is responsible. It's the responsibility of the developer, and he pays a fine. And where does that leave us?
Mr. Ward, I would add that if the municipality state the owner of the land, there could be some liability there. Obviously, if we're leasing the land and we actually own it, then there are potentially issues.
Can you get the mic in the corner? Maybe Adam, if you can kind of Liz seems to be off to the side there.
Anyway, I read somewhere where uncontrolled exploitation of the countryside is called development by those few who profit from it. Destroyers always find a nice word for a nasty deed. And another one was quoted from Dwight Eisenhower, who said, "Farming looks mighty easy when you're plowed as a pencil and you're 1,000 miles from the cornfield." Thank you.
Karen Hookshorst, 1837 Highway 2, wife to Joseph. Lived in Milford for, it is hard to talk up here, your voice shakes. Been living in Milford for 24 years. I never would have chosen it, but I married a farmer, and I grew to love it. Excuse me. It's ironic that this meeting is held on the day 10 years ago my husband was hit by a train on our property. Thank God he survived it. Back then we were talking about the inland port, and I didn't want to have any more to do with it because I was like, let the damn train come, let it take the farm, whatever. I didn't want anything to do with it. I have 5 children. I have neighbors who have 6 children, more children. We live in Milford because it is beautiful, and it is an agricultural community. And yes, we all understand that, for communities to grow and thrive, there needs to be development. And my God, in 24 years, there certainly has been around. I just think that if we could protect what we have, I mean, that land with Colliers, and there was other farmers who wanted to, propose to the council, could they lease the land? And my husband was one of them, and Sunnycroft Farms was another, and they said no, they had plans of their own. And then you put the beautiful Wickwire Park, and that's great, and everybody uses it. The kids get to go and bike, and the people use their, the dogs, everyone. And all the waterways and all that, I think it's fantastic. But if you're going to rezone that land, the industrial use, that's gonna take away from that beauty. Let alone the fact that the farmers are actually, there's a group of farmers, you all know that are working that for the Canadian Food Grains Bank project, right? Those men and women volunteer their time to work that land so that undeveloped countries can use that, the feed, right? It's not for personal use, it's not for feeding the cows, it's for helping other people. So that would be all gone. And I don't know, I just think that it's the wrong decision. Like, East Hants is what we are agriculture. And I think letting go, like someone had said, if we let this little piece go, it would be easy to let another little piece go, and then another little piece. And I just think we really should think long and hard, right? You're starting down a path here that's dangerous. And I know the community is growing and all that good stuff, but we really have to try to protect the agricultural land that we do have. And I mean, I know you understand that. You're all rural people. We're not city people here, right? Nor do we want to be. That's why we live here. It's why we have our children here. And it's why we try to keep our business here as well. So just really consider that it is what East Hants is. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Vandenhoff. I figure since my brother and my husband and my sister-in-law spoke, I might as well speak as well. We own a dairy farm up on Nelson Hill. I can say my whole family signed Liz's petition. All of us did. I would also like to question on that if you're only doing about 1/3 of the land to actually change it, that's only 1/3 of the price you bought the land for. Would it not be more beneficial for you to resell it to a farmer who can use it? You could probably sell it for close to that price, 1/3 of it, and you would be making your money back. Instead of trying to go through all these rules and regulations and fight with the community who doesn't want it there in the first place, and trying to change all of these laws and bylaws, you could just put it back to the use it was meant to be and just leave it. And would that not be an option to look at as well?
I don't know about the cost to sell the land. I do know what the appraisal for that would be commercial. All right, everyone's been ready to speak, we'll move on. John, do you have any final comments?
No, Mr. Warden.
Okay. I will now ask the Chair of Planning Advisory Committee to print his committee's recommendation.
Thank you, Warden.
I'll just hold up the name, some of these mics will take a while, but.
Thank you, Warden. Planning Advisory Committee recommends that council give second reading to amendments to the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw that redesignate and rezone 18 acres of PID number 450932226 Milford from agricultural reserve AR to industrial commercial IC. Care of TAC, I so move.
Seconder? Seconded, now open the floor to questions from council. Councilor Smith.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for coming out tonight. There's nothing here that has been said that I don't support. I'm going to go back to the appeal. I've been told that the process that we have taken here can be appealed by a public member. That was a member of the NSFA. They said there were grounds, because there was no engagement with the agricultural community.
John, and I'll let you comment, sounds like a legal issue.
Yeah, so the policy in the NPS around the Agricultural Advisory Committee, there's language in there that talks about why council created it and what its purpose is, but it doesn't say everything has to be directed there. Staff recommended that you send this proposal there, but the policy doesn't say that council will or shall send everything related to agricultural into that committee. It's an opportunity to have that input if you want it.
Yeah, I'm just not, I think we're getting confused, because typically appeal would be the URAD issues. In this issue, it may be able to be challenged in court, but I don't think it would be an appeal. I think it would have to be like a class action lawsuit.
I was led to believe that it was actually, with the board, and it would be with the process that we.
So,
I don't know what John.
to Mr. Wood, I mean, anyone can try any appeal, I guess, but our process doesn't, when you deal with a standalone rezoning or development agreement, after council approves it, we put an ad in the paper, and there's a 14-day appeal period in which you can send something into the utility review board. In this case, no ad appears. We simply take the amendments and send them off to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. They do whatever sort of review they need to do internally. And sometimes, actually, if it involves agricultural land, then they actually send it over to the Department of Agriculture for input. And then the minister makes a decision, and then the only publication we do is to inform the world that it's now in place. So we never advertise an appeal process. So I'm not aware of how you would launch an appeal, other than some sort of legal challenge to say, I don't know what, that there's something wrong with the process, or there's an error in law or something.
Another question for John. Class 3, how much of our agricultural lands do these parents have class 3 up in?
To you, Mr. Warren, I don't have the numbers in front of me. There's actually quite a bit. There's there's not that much class 2 soil, really just a little bit up along the Fundy shore. There's quite a bit of class 3. I don't know the percent of the Arizona that is class 3, but I don't have that in front of me.
Actually, that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We as counselors, we're sort of the executive level oversight, and that's things like policy and budgets, et cetera. So that's how I looked at this. I looked at it from a policy perspective, and I looked at it from an economic. From a policy perspective, we're governed by the Municipal Government Act, and it's pretty clear what you can and you can't do. It includes, as we know as council and staff, 7 statements of provincial interest, things like water, climate change, infrastructure, and a big one is agriculture. And it's pretty clear, to protect viable and sustainable agriculture and prevent conflict and with agriculture and agricultural development. From a municipal perspective, we have our official plan, and it has an entire section dedicated to agriculture because of the importance. And in it, there's one very specific policy goal, the 32 policy statements, which talk about, protection of agricultural land, minimize conflict between agricultural land, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, from a policy perspective, it really was a non-starter. So the policy, sometimes you have to look at it and there's something else that can change it. So I looked at economic benefit opportunities. There's not a business plan or a proponent. The two that are referenced that expressed some interest, one was gas, and the other one was chemicals. Even if that happens, you still have to unload them, and then you have to truck them through our communities. If you go north, you're gonna go through the community in Milford, by our schools, et cetera. If you go south to the new Hants interchange, you're gonna be going right by where, we're expecting another 8,000 new residents over the next number of years. CN would also have to be a very major player. And it's privately owned, it's publicly traded, their stocks are very high value. And so, I went into, why are they so high value? And it's a company that makes money for its shareholders. And what its direction is, large loads from major centers over long distances, that's where they make their money. So I was looking at rail sidings and things like that, and they've made a concerted effort to get rid of is probably not the right word, but probably divest a lot of the rail sidings around the country. I know in southern Ontario, the prairies, etc. Even looking at that locally, there was grain unloading in Milford, it's gone. There was grain unloading in Stewiacke, it's gone. Brookfield is gone. Oxford's gone. So I'm not sure how interested CN would even be to consider participating in a small rail siding, in this area. When I read our own official plan under the agriculture section, which is well written, it also appears that commercial related businesses to agriculture, and this is a question for you, John, could still take place on those lands without rezoning. Would that be correct?
Sorry, what could take place?
Like under our official plan, agricultural lands along the rail line there, agriculture-related unloading could still take place without rezoning the land?
Through you, Mr. Warden, yes. So the AR zone would allow any use that's related to agriculture. So if it was, you were just loading or unloading grain or, something like that at a siding, that would be permitted in the AR zone, yes.
I guess when I look at all of that, from a zoning perspective, an economic benefit perspective, I can't support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I have a question for you or the councillors that were here when the municipality bought the land or the farm. Were those people consulted when you did your purchase, or only the councillor here made that decision? So those people were not. Okay. The road that goes to the park, is that the same road that's going to be used for the entrance to the park, to the east park, or will it be? They're going to use the same?
Well, through you, Mr. Warden, the quarry access road as far as the beginning of the site, but I mean, there would obviously be a dedicated driveway into any facility developed there off of that road. Apart from the road that we built across the property to get down to the parkway.
So I just want to state that none of our kids or grandkids are going to be running on that road. It's not going to be going there, so it's very touching for me because I come from agriculture too. So if something happened to one of those kids, are we going to be able to live with it? I don't think so. And I've been here on council for that's my 4th year, and I thought I've seen it all, but I never seen something like that. And I remember one person from Montpelier, when we did the planning review, he had a small lot that he wanted to put commercial on it, just to put a wood lot on it, and we refused it until we did the review, and the other councilors really Sir McDonald pushed for it, and we barely did it for him. Remember that. And the reason was because the planning decided that this area is going to be residential. It's not agriculture, it's residential. So now, because few councilors that made that decision, I think, back then, trying to fix that decision, they don't know. And I think they're going to pass it, but I'm not going to vote for it. Thank you.
Councillor McGinnis. Second, further.
Thank you, Warden. I agree with a lot of what Councilor King and Councilor Musa had to say. Part of our planning strategy is to protect the rural landscape by permitting uses that are compatible with the rural environment. One of the objectives is to ensure the East Hants official community plan is effective in managing changes in the community, reducing land use conflict, and protecting both natural resources and community character. Clearly, it's a living, dynamic document which must be flexible to lead to a thriving community. However, in the case of 1705 Highway to Milford, I think we are putting a change in place without cause. If a third party was requesting a rezoning for a specific purpose, we could evaluate the specifics. In this case, we have no specifics. In addition, we are currently owners of land which provides a beautiful park and recreation opportunities for our residents, as well as having volunteer farmers grow grain for the World Grain Bank to help feed those in need. I believe the municipality could advertise this with a sign on the way to the park referring to the municipal land ownership and volunteer farmers from East Hants community growing grain for the World Grain Bank. I believe the land is being used in a very beneficial way while maintaining the lifestyle the neighboring residents want to preserve. Therefore, I won't be supporting the rezoning motion. Thank you.
If no councillor up to speak, if no one's going to speak, I'd ask for the question. Question's been called, we'll go to the vote. All the votes are in, the motion is passed. 6 to 5. Councillor Dixon voting no. Councillor Musa voting no. Councillor Smith voting no. Councillor McGinnis voting no. Councillor King voting no. Myself voting yes. Alderman Head voting yes. Alderman Ralston yes. Rhino yes. Sorry, Elaine Green. Sorry, it was Deputy Warden, with the chairperson voting yes, and myself and Councillor Green. So it is passed. Thank you all for coming. We move on to the second item on the public hearing schedule is proposal to amend the subdivision bylaw related.
I want to apologize a little bit about the shakiness and that kind of thing of the clips from the council chambers. Like, my tripod broke, so I bought this at Dollarama. Seemed like it would work. Kind of does. I'm not terribly unhappy with it, but I gotta get in set up before. Anyway, you don't want to hear that. Council meeting tonight. I didn't even know all the stuff with council in Milford. So, thanks for coming out, everybody. Thanks for watching this. If you want to support me, subscribe, start paying attention to my content. I may have other ways to do it later, but for now, have an awesome night or day.